Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and run through the Google Docs part of it. So we've already gone through all the details where PowerPoint is concerned. There was obviously a lot of stuff to look at. I'm not going to show you where every one of those functions is in Google Docs. I'm just going to give you an overview of its differences. That way we can cut down on reviewing some of the same basic things that we already talked about and save ourselves a little bit of time. So remember that when you log into your Google account, you will see in your Google Drive, you'll see any presentations that you have saved, things that you've done before. Remember, the fundamental difference between Microsoft and Google Docs is that Google facilitates collaboration a lot better. You can still collaborate in Microsoft, but you have to buy the Microsoft Link system, which is their communication system. Super expensive, but we at FunBun we just got it recently as a result of a donation, and which is great. And it allows you for a lot of collaboration, which I'll show you sometime. I'll log into my own account so you guys can see what that looks like. But for right now, for the average user, it just doesn't really facilitate that very well. So what we're going to do is look at a basic what's called Google Presenter, and we can see some of the fundamental differences. So when I see all my options here, and you can see there's a presentation, there's a spreadsheet, there's this is actually the link presentation that I was using to help train people on the communication system at work last week. So I can show you what an uploaded version looks like after we're done. And then of course you got documents and other uploaded things down here. So when I click on Create, it gives me all of my options, and we will be looking at Form. You can play with drawing if you think that that's going to be a beneficial tool for you, but for right now we're not going to worry about it. I'm going to go to Presentation, and it will load up in a separate window, and the very first thing it does is it asks me for a theme, which we saw in Microsoft as well. And you can see here that it's got a decent list of options. It's not a bad list, probably maybe half of the number of choices. What's interesting though is that I think one of the differences between this one and Microsoft is when I click on, let's say, a lesson plan, and I click OK. Now a lot of times it would Microsoft would give me a whole bunch of color theme options that I can go ahead and change it up to, and I don't really see too many of those options here. I will show you some possible changes, but they're a little more limited. But remember though that Google is one of those products that you can customize to make any way you want. You just have to A, have the motivation, and B, have a little bit of technical knowledge to understand where you can go to find these things. If you're just a basic user and you just want to use what's right in front of you, you don't want to go hunting for it, or you're not accustomed to hunting for it, that's where the difference comes in. And so it's important to say that it's not that PowerPoint or Google Presenter, it's not that really one is better than the other. It's just that they're so different in so many different ways that you're going to want to take the criteria from both of them and evaluate them really carefully before you decide which one to use. Okay, so for this basic one, I just chose one of their background options. Same sort of thing that we saw in Google Spreadsheet and in Google for Word documents. You have a File tab here. It gives you all of your different options. Remember, they like to just name things different. Rename is Save As, so it's the same thing. You're just renaming the document. You can make copies, import slides. Again, one of the big things about Google Docs is being able to see the revision history, and that is huge. That's wonderful. You can do that in Microsoft, but you have to take a number of different steps in order to see that. Here, you don't have to do that. If you click See Revision History, it pops up in a separate window, and it gives you the user, because remember this is designed to be collaborative. It gives you the user and the time and the date right down to the minute, and it will say now it's not really saying much, but it will give you an idea of what changes have been made, so that if you make changes to a document as a group and then you go further down one road and you decide, oh, that was terrible, wait a minute, we didn't want to do that, we want to go back to the other way of doing it, you can go right back into the revision history and find it, and it's no problem, which is very, very nice. And it's always there, never goes away. So remember this. I had a couple people when they were working on Google Docs were worried that they hadn't saved anything. Remember, it's continuously saving for you. You're going to see this, all changes saved. And it will, if you roll over it, you can see the last edit was 2 minutes ago, and it says every change that you make is going to be automatically saved. So just know that you don't have to worry about that. It has to be saved because you're able to work on it live, collaborative. So this is basically a wiki, is what you're looking at. We were talking about doing that in Blackboard. All right. You can, of course, change your language. You can download as a different version. So what you may want to do is play around in one version and save it as another. And you can see that here, if you download it into PowerPoint, you're going to be able to manipulate it and do different things with it. If you do it the other way around, you can't manipulate it as much. And there are a couple of reasons for that. And once I show you how it actually looks very different, we'll go into that a little bit further. You can save it as a PDF, which remember is accessible by just about everybody. These two are picture images, so if you just want to save a picture and load it as something, you can do that too. Say you make a really cool slide and you want that to be your picture on Facebook or something. I mean, I can't imagine why you'd want to do that, but there are lots of different things that you can do there. You can publish it to the web on your own site. You can email, and let's see, I think there's an option here. If I follow through the lines, no, I'm sorry, that's in a different place. So it gives you the embed code. So if I go ahead and start creating a document, and I really love my presentation and I want to embed it in my Blackboard site, and I want to put it in there so that you guys can always access it and you can run through it. What it does is you can link it up as a document, which is what a lot of instructors usually do. But if you embed it, maybe we'll try that towards the end. But if you embed it, you can actually see the picture of the title page as a content item in your learning management system, which wouldn't seem like it'd be that big a deal, but it really does make a difference in how people view your site. So just something to be aware of. Okay, as always, you can email collaborators. They're always wanting you to coordinate. Remember, this is designed to be a collaborative effort. That's why they created this. They don't really think about this tool in terms of only one person using it. And of course, one person can use it, but that's not usually what they think about. There is one area down here that I wanted to show you, and that was, remember when I mentioned that there were, defaulted templates here and there weren't very many. Well, like I told you, in Microsoft, you can go and do a search, and a number of different sites have sort of created their own templates. And if you have the initiative and the motivation and the technical knowledge to go out and look for those things, you can find them. But with Google's an open source product. And companies that are open source have a completely different mentality than ones that are for profit. Ones that are for profit are very closed off. They are designed to be self-sustaining. They do try to work with other technologies, but they are designed to set up by themselves and make a profit. And Google right now is very, open source, collaborate, everybody bring in their stuff. We want to connect everybody. They're all about the connection. Now, not to go too far off topic, but when we start talking about the difference between open source and for-profit, you're seeing for-profit companies starting to meddle a little bit in the open source movement. And so that is something that we'll have to address. But for right now, all they do is they basically hook us up with everybody else who has created something really cool in Google Presenter and wanted to share it. And so you can see right down here that these are all the templates. And look, there's somebody I have no idea. Is that Arabic? I have no clue. Oh, it's Hebrew. It's Hebrew, isn't it? Oh, I'm trying to remember. I think that's Hebrew. Anyway, you're seeing lots of different languages here. You're seeing people who have done all kinds of different things. It's really amazing. And you can see that this is from number 1 of 20 of thousands that have been uploaded. So these are right now, this search has been narrowed down to presentations. But let's say you're looking for a form and you want to get a form out to all of your other teacher friends for who wants to go and have an end of semester lunch or something. I guarantee you somebody else made it. So before you create it yourself, go out and see what other people have done. That's going to be very important. So these are just general public templates. If you want to do a specific search for something, you can go ahead and type that into your search. You can also browse it by category. So if you scroll down here, they've got businesses, calculators, holiday, personal stuff, statistics, resumes, all students and teachers. Go ahead and click on that and see what that does. Okay, so we've got a student certificate. We've got clearly some foreign things on here. Being in a musical, that looks pretty cool. Somebody's restaurant presentation. You're going to see all kinds of completely random things because everybody who uploads to this site knows that they're now allowing it to be shared and manipulated and worked on. So this is, again, we talk about fair use and everything. This is totally and completely fair use. So if you decide that there's anything on here that you like and you want to tweak it for your own use, have at it. Okay, you can spend some time looking at that though on your own. All right, we go to edit, and same options here: undo, redo, paste, select all, find and replace. All those things are available. If you want to view, remember we had a separate slideshow area where you could view from the start. I don't know if, let's see, let's go ahead and create another slide though and see. Right here in this little red button is your new slide area. And remember how we said that there are certain defaults that will automatically be created? If you click the new slide button in Microsoft, it just creates what it thinks is going to be the next in the progression. Here you can just go ahead and click on the drop down and you can select whatever you want. So we can just go ahead and hit a blank one, and that's what the blank presentation is going to look like. All right. Let's see, I'm sorry, where were we here? Okay, so now that I created a new one, you can see other options have opened up depending on what we need to do. When you hit on Start Presentation, here's the difference between this and Microsoft is it automatically goes to the beginning. It doesn't give you an option to start it from the current slide. So if you have a lot of slides to go through, just kind of be aware of that. That's something in old Microsoft, they used to only allow you to start from the beginning, and they changed that, but it looks like Google has not, to my knowledge, but there may be, again, another side way to do it. Don't be surprised. All right, so if you go into view, we talked about animations, about slide transitions, and then about doing different text items. So if you click on animations, right now it gives you those. There were two separate tabs. One of them was transitions and one of them was animations, and you had to understand the difference between the two. This one, it's all in one page. It's all in animation. So, again, that's kind of a difference. So that there's no slide transition right now. So if you want to transition the slide, go ahead and click on that. It's just a drop down. It doesn't take you to a new screen or anything, which is nice. It's got no transition now, but you can go ahead and select from these options. Remember, there were probably about 4 times as many in Microsoft. What I wonder is if you could make one of those fancy animations work in Google if you did a search and somebody created one and told you how to insert it. That's another possibility. So if you can go ahead and select flip, for example, and it's got your options of slow, medium, fast. What slow, medium, and fast means to Google and what it means to you are not necessarily the same thing. Remember, in Microsoft, it gave you down to the second exactly how far you wanted it to go. Now, maybe that's useful for you. Maybe slow, medium, and fast are fine for your choices. It really just depends. So you can go ahead and click play here, and then you can see what it's going to look like when it actually transitions. Okay. So then you can say you're done. If you are here and you have more things, you can select an animation for that one particular object. It gives you, again, options: fly in, zoom out. It gives you different options here. It allows you to do it by paragraph, or if you have bullets within the paragraph, you can go ahead and specify that. So then you can sort of see how these things go. Okay, and since we don't have anything in there, you're not going to see this specific animation. All right, so that's how we do that. And then let's see here. Oh, sorry, we're on view. Different zoom in, zoom out sizing features. If you've got speaker notes, it gives you that option too. Remember, there's a notes area in PowerPoint as well. Full screen, a lot of the same basic editing or viewing things that you'll see otherwise. Text box, images, again, the image options are going to be the same as we saw before. If you upload an image, if you have it by URL, if you have it in your albums, if you want to do a search. And again, with search, those are usually the safe images that you can find. So you can kind of same options they had before. Remember we talked about video and audio links were both allowed to upload. There was an automatic link in very specific directions in Microsoft. In Google, you can go ahead and upload a video, but what's interesting is it doesn't automatically assume that it's a file. It assumes that you've uploaded it to YouTube. And the reason for that is that Google owns YouTube, so they're going to automatically facilitate that a lot better. And that goes back to who owns what and what do they want to link you to for business reasons. So just kind of be aware of that. You can do an automatic search in YouTube, and the good news is if you want to use a lot of YouTube videos, that may very well dictate the presentation format that you use as opposed to what you prefer to do. If you do like to embed a lot of YouTube videos, or if you're like me and you put all of your videos on YouTube, then this is a whole lot easier. It's a lot easier to just load those things right in because Google makes it super simple. It's a little bit harder in Microsoft to do that. However, if you've got video files on your computer, it's a little bit harder to do that in Google than it is in Microsoft. So sometimes you just want to think about the materials that you want to present because that may make a difference as well. All right, there's word art, there's lines, shapes, all the same options that we saw before. Remember, their table format really doesn't give you much to work with. You go ahead and click on that, and then you go ahead and fill in your table things, but it doesn't give you all the design elements before, so that's something that's different. Animation we talked about. Comments, you can include comments, new slides, import slides, all that good stuff. You can change your layout here. You can change your theme if you've got a different color theme you want to go with. If you want to change your transition, your background, you can go and click on that. If you want to just make the background color into something very general. If you want to go ahead and use your image, any image as the total background, that's an option here as well, just like we saw in Microsoft. Let's see, the format, all this stuff is the same. Paragraph styles, aligning, or justification, however you want to call it. Line spacing, these options are all pretty much the same as you would find in any other Google Doc. If you want to arrange the text and the pictures on the slide, bringing it front, bringing it backwards, some people were doing that earlier this week with other programs. Just know you can kind of mess with that a little bit. You can center things on the page a little more clearly. If you have more items, these are an option. Obviously right now we don't have a lot of stuff on here, but distributing, rotating, grouping, all those things are available. These are all of your table options, so once you actually have a table loaded, you can insert columns, all that stuff. You just can't design it as nicely, so that's the only thing. And I wouldn't say that you can't have a really phenomenal I wouldn't say that you can't have a really phenomenal presentation here with the tables and all that, but you'll probably have to go to an outside source and create one and copy it and bring it in. So again, it's not that it can't do it, it's just that it doesn't have it embedded. Tries to make things relatively simple here. Okay, and that's pretty much it. The only other difference here is when you want to, again, so you want to start the presentation, and you can start, oh, I'm sorry, up here on the right, I was wrong. You can start at the current slide. I almost always go to these when I want to start the presentation, but well, learn something new. So you can start it at the current slide, and then you can even start with speaker notes if you prefer. So that works out well too. Again, always the share options. It's automatically defaulted to be private to you, but if you want to go ahead and change it, you can add people, you can share it, all of those wonderful things. You can either share it for presentation purposes or sharing for collaborative purposes. Remember, it's always being saved, so you're good there. Okay, so the only other thing that I would show you though is take a good look at all of your editing options here, because I talked to you about having Google Cloud Connect, and it automatically uploads any Microsoft products that I'm working. It loads it into my Google Cloud. So if I click on here, you can see that I've got the training materials that I was using to help train everybody at FontBot on the link system. And look at the options that we have here. I mean, there's very, very little that we can do here. We can kind of comment and share it and do different things within it, but you're going to be somewhat limited when you bring it in. It's really just if you want to create something in Microsoft and share it with everybody else, you can do that, but it doesn't really play very nicely, and we talked about this in class. If you download it or if you export it, you can export it to a Google presentation and then start manipulating it, which I have done before, but it doesn't always format properly, and they warn you about that it doesn't always format the way that it's supposed to, because they're two completely different companies and they do things totally differently. Google is trying to facilitate the flow of work between the two, but it's not always going to work out exactly as you expect. So the best you can do is just give it a try and see how it works for you. Okay? And that's it.